Well, happy Wednesday or happy Thursday, depending on what day you have me in class. This is our final day of chapter two. Um, the packet, though, that you currently have will also have your chapter three in there also. So that's where we'll switch over to radians once we finish this up. So this is your Wednesday or Thursday assignment. There are no notes. It's just another day of practice. So I went to your homework page. So there are 2 pages of homework for today, and one of them is this one is page 22. There is no page number on this one. So I wanted to make sure that you were at the right one. Special Angles Worksheet number 1. We are going to do all of these, 1 through 30. And I just thought I'd do a couple of them just to make sure you understood how to do them. Now, we are not wanting to use our calculator. Notice that it's asking us for the exact value, which that means I am not, and I can check this if I want to, if I can pull the calculator up here. So I don't care if you check this with your calculator, but you have to be able to solve this by hand with no calculator. So if we were in class, you would have been tested on your unit circle knowledge already. But since we're not, it's nothing we can do about it. So I'm going to continue to stress memorizing that unit circle and how it works, so that whenever you're in your AMA class next year, you'll know right away when they ask you, well, what is the sine of 60 degrees? I'm basically, what I'm doing is I'm thinking about this unit circle, and I know that I have a 30, I have a 45, and I have a 60. And I know what each one of these ordered pair are. So I know that if this is my 30 degrees, I know that my ordered pair is root 3 over 2, 1/2. If I'm at the 45, then I know that I have root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. So remember that these are also in the order of cosine theta, sine of theta. So your cosine is your x and your sine is your y. And then your 60 degree, it's just your 30 degree switched. So there's real easy ways to remember these things. So now it's a 1/2 and then a root 3 over 2. And you can't hardly see that one. Interesting, right? It won't let me write in the blue. Okay, well, and then it took my calculator away. The difficulties of this e-learning. I should have started when I was 20 doing e-learning. At any rate, you can do this. You can do, well, actually, make sure you go to mode and you're in degree. I've already used my calculator today, so I've already put it back in degree. But if you're using this online TI-84 Plus, the color edition, that's what the CE stands for, make sure that you do go to mode and make sure you're in degree. So I could go to sine and I could type in a 60 degrees and it'll tell me it's 0.866. Well, that doesn't help me a lot when I'm asking you for exact values. So what I need you to do is to know that this is 30, that this one is 45, and that this one is 60, that they're in the order of cosine, sine, and therefore the sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2. So it's something that you just need to have memorized. Then you can do tan of negative 120. So remember that the tan is going to go backwards. So the tan of a negative 120, remember that's going to take 30 degrees going this direction. So it's going to leave you a 60 degree angle here. So that's where the little reference is going to come from. So if you're referencing a 60 degree, remember that that's a 1/2 root 3 over 2. Remember where you are in the third quadrant, so you're negative, negative. So your tangent, of course, is going to be positive. Remember that you are running backwards because they rotate backwards. So they rotate clockwise if they're negative. They rotate counterclockwise if they're positive. So if, and I know I went to 16 instead of 2, but that's okay. So if I'm doing the tangent of a negative 120 degrees, well, I'm actually looking for the negative negative. So remember that it's a sine over cosine. So if I'm doing this exact, it's the root 3 over 2 over 1/2. And so when you take the reciprocal of the bottom and bring it to the top, then you'll see that what you're looking at is the square root of 3. Now, if you wanted to check that, well, let's just go check it. Let's do tan of negative 120, and it'll tell me it's negative 1, or it's going to tell me it's a 1.73. And if I type in the second square root of 3, cross your fingers, it's exactly the same thing. So whenever we ask you for exact values, we are not looking for any of these decimals, which I'm fine if you use your calc to check it. Just make sure that you do know how to do it. I'm going to do one more. So I'll do 1, 2, and 16. Strange combination, but at any rate. So how do you do a secant? A secant of 135. Because nowhere on the unit circle do I ask you to find a secant. So first of all, I have to know that the secant is the inverse of a cosine. And so if I'm at 135 degrees, I have to remember, and let me switch colors here. Let me put that back down. So if I switch colors and I do 135 degrees, there's my 90 plus 45 more. So what I'm looking at are the ordered pair that go with the 45, which is kind of nice because it's root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. And I like those. So if I'm looking for a secant, remember that the secant is the inverse of the cosine, which in this case you couldn't mess it up anyway, because if you got them confused with sine, because the cosine is root 2 over 2, so the secant is its reciprocal, 2 over root 2. And then I just need you to rationalize it by multiplying by root 2 over 2. You can do that pretty quickly in your head, more than likely. And so you're going to end up with the square root of 2. So there you go. All right. Now, hold on. I need to remember this one thing. Remember where you're located. Remember that you are located in the second quadrant and that they're all positive in the first. The sine and the cosine, the sine and the cosecant are positive in the second. The tan is positive and cotan are positive in the third. And then your cosine and secant are positive in the fourth. Well, because I'm at 135 degrees, I happen to be sitting in the second quadrant, so that has to be a negative square root of 2. All righty. Questions? Okie doke. I'll leave the rest of those to you. They should be quite a bit of fun. So you're going to do this page, and then you can read through these little notes that they have here. It's important to be able to find the exact trigonometric function values of angles 30, 45, 60. So we're going to have to be able to do those quickly. The ones that we just looked at, I'm okay if you go a little slower, but I need that unit circle to be something that is very much committed to your memory here on the screen. All righty, so the last thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to go to this page. It'll say it's page 23 of 50. And so we're going to ask you also to do this one. We'll do 1. So this exercise also, we're going to do 1 through 11 odd. And I believe the page number is at the top. I don't see it. This one is, it says in my notes that it's page 37. And it's 1 through 11 odd, these that are circled. And then if you could practice that, that would be fabulous. So just so that you know these pretty quickly, that the 30, 45, 60, the 120 is a 60 degree reference, the 135 is a 45 degree reference, and the 150 is a 30 degree reference. So those are really, really important. Again, this one would be a 30 degree reference, and the 240, and the way that I'm doing this, I'm just going to 180 in my head, and then I'm adding 60 degrees to this. And so this is how I'm calculating the reference. So if you want to try this, this would be something good for you to try to make sure that you can really quickly tell me the sine of 30 degrees is a half. The cosine of 30 degrees is root 3 over 2. The tan, the cotan, secant, cosecant. Whoops. All right. But your homework is actually over here. So the rest of your homework is here on page 38. So remember, you have the first worksheet, and then you have the 1 through 11 on this page 37. You can try this if you'd like. It is excellent practice. Sorry, you can probably hear an ambulance out there. My window's up today. This is excellent practice for you. Okay, it's not assigned, but it's something you might want to try and do. But the assignment is here on page 38. We are going to ask you to do 21 to 53 every other odd. So 21, skip 23, 25, ooh, skip 27, do 29, all the way, and we've circled them for you, I believe. Okay. A few more evaluations: sine squared 120, cosine squared 120, just some little algebraic expressions that we have there. Answer true or false: is the cosine of 60 the same thing as 2 times cosine squared of 30 degrees minus a 1? So this is just a little bit of checking your knowledge. And then at the bottom, it's going to ask you to find all the values of the angle of theta that is between 0 and 360 degrees. So, for example, if you have this first one, and I hate to do many of these because they're excellent questions. So you're going to do 21 to 53 every other odd. And what we want to know is how many angles are there around the circle? Can you tell me where the angles are that would have a sine value of a half? And notice that it's a positive a half. Okay, so when I think about my unit circle, let me get a red up here. So if I think about my unit circle, I know that this one at 30 degrees would give me a cosine of root 3 over 2 and a sine of 1/2. Right, that's fabulous because there's one of them. So I need to know, can you tell me all of the angles that give me a positive 1/2? Well, one of them would be 30 degrees. Now, remember, again, that all are positive in the first: sine, tangent, cosine, because all students take calculus, you know. So they're all positive in the first. So the sine is positive in the second. So I need to know, where is my 30-degree reference triangle again? In the second quadrant. So if this is my 30-degree reference triangle again, and here's my root 3 over 2 and 1/2, this really isn't 30 degrees. It's 180 degrees minus the 30 degrees. So this one's going to make this one 150 degrees. So you're going to tell me the two places around the unit circle where the angle is equal to, the sine of the angle is equal to a positive 1/2. You're going to tell me 30 degrees and 150 degrees. And those are the two places. And this is what the restrictions tell me. Can go from 0 degrees. My angle has to be greater than or equal to 0. So don't forget, you can start your angle here. 0 degrees is counted in that. You're going to find that probably down in 49, 51, 53. Any of these that have 1 and undefined, that's the places I'm looking for. At any rate, I hope that's a pretty good explanation. I'm looking around the circle one time. Okay, so from 0 degrees all the way around to 360 degrees. So usually you're going to find two angles that match or that fit the criteria. Okay, quiz will be assigned to you on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on your class. And it will need to be completed by Friday or Saturday, depending on your class. Okay. Well, if you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email and I will be more than happy to set up a Zoom time with you or a Google Hangout. Okay. Be well, everyone. And my desktop is stopping. Goodbye.